The term generational isn't thrown around too often in the NHL. Since the year 2000, there have really only been 4 players labeled by scouts and the media as true generational, once-in-a-lifetime players. Those players being Alexander Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, and most recently, Connor Bedard. But what exactly makes a generational player? What makes these top prospects so hyped up compared to the others? It's not just about being the best player in your draft class. I mean, that comes with it, but a generational player is someone who comes into the league with expectations that feel impossible, and somehow they meet them or even surpass them. They don't just dominate statistically, they shift how the game is played, how teams are built, and how fans see talent. And the first of this modern era to carry that kind of weight was Alexander Ovechkin. Going into the 2004 NHL draft, Ovechkin was viewed as a lock for the first overall years in advance. The Panthers even tried to illegally pick him in the 9th round of the 2003 draft using a leap year loophole. Scouts called him the best prospect to ever come out of Russia, and we all know how that worked out. After him came Sidney Crosby just 1 year later, a completely different kind of generational player. From the time he was a teenager, he was labeled the next one, expected to follow in the footsteps of Gretzky and Lemieux, and somehow, he lived up to that. For over a decade, he set the standard for what it meant to be the face of the NHL, a player who could do everything at an elite level and make everyone around him better. If Ovechkin changed how players score, Crosby changed how players thought the game. Then, almost a decade later, the hockey world met the next generational talent, Connor McDavid. McDavid had maybe the most hype as an NHL prospect ever. By the time he was 15, people were already calling him the best prospect since Sid, and by his draft year, that conversation shifted to whether he might be the best since Lemieux or Gretzky. Since then, McDavid has met every single bit of that impossible hype. Multiple scoring titles, MVPs, and seasons that look like video game numbers. His entire game revolved around speed, not just how quickly he skated, but how fast he processed the ice. He could go from zero to full stride in a few steps, creating space where none existed, and he made elite defenders look like they were standing still. And that brings us to the newest name on that list, Connor Bedard. Bedard entered the league carrying the same kind of expectations that followed McDavid and Crosby. The idea that he wasn't just going to be good, he was going to be great. His junior numbers were unreal. He became the first player in WHL history to be granted exceptional status, allowing him to play a full year earlier than everyone else his age. At just 15, he averaged nearly 2 points per game in a shortened season and was named WHL Rookie of the Year. A year later, he became the youngest player in history to score 50 goals and the first 16-year-old in the 21st century to record a 100-point season. By his draft year, he finished with 71 goals and 72 assists for 143 points in only 57 games, leading the WHL and the entire CHL in scoring. He was the first WHL player in almost 30 years to reach the 140-point mark and the first to ever win the CHL's top scorer, top prospect, and player of the year awards all in the same season. His games would sell out arenas across Canada, drawing NHL-sized crowds wherever he played. With numbers like that, the generational label, it didn't feel too exaggerated. But unlike the other 3 generational talents that I've talked about, his game didn't really fully translate right away. He was still good, flashes of brilliance, highlight reel goals, moments where you could see the talent, but it wasn't a generational rookie season. His shot was still unreal, his confidence was there, but it took time for everything to click. Adjusting to NHL size, speed, and systems isn't easy, even for a player with that much skill. Crosby, Ovechkin, and McDavid all came into the league and dominated from the start. Point-per-game seasons, instant franchise turnarounds, and highlight reels that made it obvious they were already elite. But for Bedsy, that wasn't exactly the case. Through his first 2 seasons, Bedard put up 128 points in 150 games. Impressive numbers for a teenager playing on one of the weakest rosters in the NHL, but still below what many fans expected from someone labeled as generational. The hype around him was enormous, and when the results didn't match the McDavid-level standards people had set, the criticism, it came fast. Comment sections, talk shows, and even some analysts started throwing around words like disappointment and bust. Articles questioned whether he'd been overhyped, another victim of social media hype, YouTube highlights, and unrealistic comparisons. But that criticism ignored one major thing: context. Ovechkin, he may have been a one-man show in Washington, but his physical style and NHL-ready frame helped him dominate right away. Crosby joined a Penguins team that added talent around him immediately and got to learn from guys like Mario Lemieux and Mark Recchi. McDavid had Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle, and Leon Draisaitl to play alongside, and I'm not saying those guys were any better than him, but they could play. Bedard didn't have any of that. He spent his rookie year playing alongside Nick Foligno and Philip Kurashev. But fast forward to now, year 3. The Hawks have done some work to build around Bedsy, some of the younger players are making the jump, and everything seems to be clicking. As of November 11th, Connor Bedard is battling for the league lead in points with 25 in 16 games. And that's not really coming as a surprise since we know what this kid can do. After 2 full seasons in the NHL, Bedard finally admitted it. The biggest thing holding him back wasn't his hands, it wasn't his shot, it was his skating. He knew that his next step wasn't about learning a new move or perfecting his release, it was about keeping up with the pace of the league, because everyone already knew he could score from anywhere. That part was never in question. But if you look at the top players in today's game, there's one thing they almost all have in common. They're not just elite scorers, they're elite skaters. The faster you are, the more time and space you create, and that's what separates great players from the ones who can take over games. When the season started, you could see it right away. Bedard just looked faster. He was exploding through the neutral zone and pulling away from defenders in ways he had never done before. Last season, his speed topped out around 21.4 miles per hour. This year, he's already hit 22.3. And he's hit that mark multiple times. He now ranks among the top few percent of players for bursts in the 20 to 22 mile range, territory usually reserved for the league's most dynamic skaters. He's still not McDavid fast, I mean nobody is, but he's clearly entered the next tier of players who can use speed to take over a shift. And that's what really matters, is how he's using that speed. Bedard's gone from creating about 10 rush chances per 60 minutes to almost 15, jumping from 10.7 to 14.6. Good enough to put him inside the top 10 in the entire league. A big chunk of his points this year have actually come straight off of transition plays, breakouts, odd man rushes, quick counters, and if that trend keeps up, it might be the thing that finally pushes him into the same conversation as players he's been compared to his whole life. And that brings us to the part of his game that no one has ever questioned, and it's always defined him, his shot. It's what made him special in juniors, it's what got him drafted first overall, and it's what everyone expected to translate instantly to the NHL. But early on, there were some real questions about whether it would. In junior, he could walk into the zone, pick a spot, and rip it past goalies who never stood a chance. In the NHL, that space disappears fast. Goalies track better, defenders close quicker, and even elite shooters need help to get clean looks. The question was simple. Could Bedard's biggest weapon still dominate at the highest level of hockey? And this season, he's changed the way he uses his shot completely. Playing alongside new line mates has opened up new looks, more east-west passing, more goalies forced to move, and more chances for Bedard to pick his spot. But it's not just that he's getting set up more, he's also scoring on his own. He's ripping pucks through screens, catching goalies off balance, and placing shots with ridiculous precision. The release is the same thing he's always had, but the timing, the angles, and the confidence behind it are sharper than ever. And because of this, he's shooting the puck more. In his first 5 games of the season, Bedard managed only 6 shots on net. Since then, he's fired off 46 in his last 11, including 9 in a single game against Anaheim. And the results, they speak for themselves. His 5-on-5 shooting percentage has jumped from 7.9% to 13.9%, and overall he's gone from 11.8% to 17.3%. That kind of efficiency puts him right in line with the league's best finishers, the players who live in the 16 to 22% range year after year. Bedard's shot was never the issue, it just needed time to catch up to the pace of the NHL. Now it's right back where it belongs, fast, heavy, and deadly accurate. But even with the speed and the shot starting to click, there was still one problem. Bedard couldn't find anyone to click with. Through his first 2 seasons, the Blackhawks cycled line mates constantly, trying to find the right fit. He had flashes of chemistry with guys like Philip Kurashev and Ryan Donato, but it never lasted. Bedard could create plays on his own, but he never had a consistent partner to build real chemistry with. But that started to change this season when Chicago brought in Andrei Burakovsky, a move meant to give Bedard a veteran winger who could actually keep up with him. In just 181 minutes at 5-on-5 this year, Bedard's put up 5 goals and 6 primary assists, his best production with any line mate he's ever had. He's averaging 3.56 points per 60 minutes next to Burakovsky, nearly double what he produced with Donato or Kurashev. And it's not one-sided either. Bedard's assisted on 4 of Burakovsky's goals, and Burakovsky's returned the favor twice. For the first time, Bedard's got a running mate who can actually finish the chances that he creates. But not every improvement shows up on the stat sheet. After 3 seasons, Bedard's biggest leap has been his maturity, both physically and mentally. He entered the league at 18 years old, carrying impossible expectations, but now, at 20, he looks composed, patient, and in control. The Blackhawks never panicked either. While fans begged for more help around him, GM Kyle Davison stayed patient, believing Bedard just needed time to figure it out. And now he has. 3 years ago, Connor Bedard was labeled the next generational star, the kid who was supposed to follow in the footsteps of Ovechkin, Crosby, and McDavid. But what we've seen since then is that greatness doesn't always happen overnight. And maybe that's just what being generational really is. Not just meeting expectations the second you arrive, but learning how to rise to them. Because if this version of Connor Bedard is just the beginning, the league should probably start to take cover.